Immigration remains another key issue in this campaign. Vice President Harris says if elected, she will pass a bipartisan bill strengthening border security. Former President Trump promises a much larger crackdown, including mass deportations. One of the key claims from Trump and others, that immigrants commit a disproportionate number of crimes, has been disputed and contradicted by data. But there's been an economic argument made by the former president as well, that immigrants take jobs and lower wages for other Americans. Our economic correspondent Paul Solman gave that a closer look.
An invasion of criminal migrants.
For former President Donald Trump, immigration has long been an obsession.
We're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage can for the world.
But Vice President Harris, too, promises to crack down on illegal crossings.
We will pursue more severe criminal charges against repeat violators.
55% of Americans say they favor reduced immigration amidst a record number of illegal crossings late last year, straining resources in several cities, including here in New York, though crossings have since plunged. These are immigrants in the South Bronx, learning construction safety basics. Almost all have asked for asylum and are in legal limbo until their cases are resolved. How many of you think you will be working in 2 months? What kind of work? Well, Carmine Tavares came here years ago from the Dominican Republic. He says he's done every job he could find.
Construction, electrician, carpenter, plumbers, and locksmith.
Wilbur Alva has been here just 1 month.
And Home Depot.
I go to Home Depot. A lot of migrants go to look for construction jobs there.
Alfonso Melendez endured the nightmare trek from Venezuela through the Darien Gap jungle to get to America with his 2 young sons and wife, Biane.
We were robbed just as we were exiting the jungle. The masked men came out and they stopped everybody crossing. So it was in a large group and they stole from everyone. And those who didn't have anything to give, at times there were young women, pretty women there. And these men just took it upon themselves to rape them.
Biane and her husband say they're forever scarred. Knowing what you know now, would you do it again?
No.
No.
Ya hoy en día no.
It's too much psychologically.
Psicológicamente.
Lots of bodies riddled the path.
Donald Trump also stresses a more seemingly plausible dark side of immigration, the immigrants' economic impact.
It's not just the crime. Your jobs are being taken away, too.
Especially low-wage jobs, says Stephen Camarata, who has long advocated for fewer immigrants.
The vast majority of people who do all the low-wage work in the United States are U.S. born.
So, key question, are immigrants displacing American workers? Well, almost any employer will tell you how hard it is to find reliable workers these days.
Most of the people that are coming are in working age. They're going to do the jobs that I don't want to do, you don't want to do, nobody else wants to do, and we're not doing.
When Juan Pablo Morales, the program coordinator here, came from Guatemala 14 years ago, he too started at the bottom.
I was putting floors, I was teaching English, cutting hair, killing rats.
Killing rats?
Absolutely.
How do you kill rats?
I have some friends that have Jack Terriers, and we would take them out at night and hunt rats in vacant lots of New York City. We would get paid just to walk around and do that.
Carmine Tavares says immigrants have to take whatever job they can get.
They have to take any opportunity available because they have to provide for themselves and for the people they're with, and they don't have access to health care. They don't have any assistance.
2,400 miles west, Janelle Baker runs a ranch in rural eastern Nevada. Her father has a dairy farm nearby.
What's your reaction when you hear that immigrants are taking jobs from Americans?
I think it's dumb.
Dumb?
Dumb. It's uninformed. They're not taking your job. You don't want it. You don't want to do it. If you want to, you would be applying when we advertise. My dad wouldn't be looking for milkers all the time. Nearly everyone we know in agriculture is looking for someone.
Case in point, for years, Baker has posted an irrigation job.
We had a couple of people that said, my son would like a job. I never heard from them. Another time we had someone call, say they were interested, and they never showed up. This year we had someone looked at the requirements of the job and decided they didn't want to do it. But he was the only person to actually show up and talk to my husband about the job.
Okay, but what about the recent wave of immigrants? Can the economy really absorb all of them?
New York City is the vacuum of jobs, especially the construction industry. There is a job for anybody that wants to work, especially if you're willing to do anything.
Jobs that native-born Americans don't or won't do?
It would be wrong to say there are jobs that Americans simply don't do. If 2/3 of construction laborers, based on the American Community Survey, are U.S. born, you can't say no American does that job or is interested.
And here's a crucial point, says Stephen Camarata. Immigrants depress wages below what many Americans can bear.
If you increase the supply of anything, in this case labor or workers, you tend to lower its price. If a job is very heavily immigrant, then that is likely an area where immigration has significantly pushed down wages. And some of those jobs are really unpleasant, like construction labor. So you would want wages to be relatively high there. And one of the things immigration does is tends to hold down wages, making the occupation less attractive.
But Carmine Tavares says there are construction jobs American workers won't do, even for high pay.
I see the people you pay $50 something and work in the construction, and sometimes don't work. I see that with my eyes.
Juan Pablo Morales, long since an American citizen, sympathizes.
There's a lot of jobs that I had to do. If I'm not in a spot in my life again where I have to, I won't.
Business school professor Zeke Hernandez.
We have very clear evidence that native-born young men and women will simply not do those jobs. They will not take them, even during times of very high unemployment.
But, argues Camarata, if fewer immigrants mean higher wages, then maybe Americans will take the jobs, especially less educated men.
The share of men not in the labor force, that is neither working nor looking for work, is about triple what it was in 1960. And it's nearly double what it was even 25 years ago. As long as we have a supply of eager immigrants, we are never going to address this problem.
And think of all the available jobs were Donald Trump to deliver on his campaign vow.
We're going to get these people out. We're going to deport them so rapidly.
That would cost all of us, says economist Giovanni Perry.
The income that this undocumented generate in the U.S. is about 3.5% of the U.S. GDP. So in the order of $1 trillion per year. Plus, you will have all the cost of running this operation that will also be huge. From a pure economic point of view, massive cost. Some sectors will have huge disruption.
What would happen to American agriculture, let's say?
So I think you'd tank it. In our area, if you were to pull out all of the immigrants, documented and undocumented, it would devastate our area.
Here in New York, construction never stops. Who's doing that construction?
Tim Driscoll runs the Bricklayers Union.
I don't believe the industry could actually survive that kind of mass loss of workers.
And besides, says Driscoll,
the only way there was a reduction in unauthorized workers in this country was when the pandemic hit and employment opportunities ceased to exist. And the reason that a lot of folks were attracted here disappeared. We had the 4-year experiment of self-deportation. It failed.
Just so, says Professor Hernandez.
There's a study that came out recently showing that the biggest predictor of illegal border crossings is unfilled job openings in the United States. We need these people.
And at the moment, at least, we certainly seem to. For the PBS News Hour, Paul Solman in the Bronx.